it's been an agony for the accommodation sector on the promenade this year, obviously. But to some degree, it's also been soul-destroying, and the committee is interested in two aspects. One, how do we get the sector through the winter? But of great importance is the whole issue of how do we reintroduce a sense of hope and confidence in the future thereafter. We've gone about our business by examining, and you've mentioned his name, Andrew Keeling's Hotel Solutions consultancy report of 2016 and 2017, which the committee have found to be very, very good. So
good in what way?
Professional, to the point, succinct, and full of good advice. The committee is finding that the advice offered those years ago hasn't really been interrogated, interpreted, and delivered. In other words, as is the want of government quite often, it can produce very good reports and then collapses in a heap of exhaustion and doesn't deliver on the action. So the committee is considering both Andrew Keeling's exchange with the committee and the department's exchange, and we're going to consolidate our thoughts into a report to Tynwald in November under the auspices of a general debate, so that all members have the chance to really understand get under the skin of the accommodation, the hospitality sector, and help them understand what it is that we should be doing, which is your point here, or Andrew's point about modernisation. The fact of the matter is that if we're going to create a successful future for the hospitality sector, and there is no reason at all why it's beyond us to do so, there are opportunities emerging that we've got to pick up. However, as Andrew said, and as you will have heard him say, our accommodation sector has fallen behind the constantly accelerating quality standards that are emerging right round UK.
And he spoke about competitors elsewhere, other islands around the British Isles,
doing better,
which we are directly competing with. Let's be honest.
Absolutely, and our failure is that we haven't understood what it is that we need to do, and Andrew spelt that out, and that was why our second session, a slightly longer session in the afternoon, was designed to examine what we thought government should do, and there's an awful lot it should do that it's not doing. It has grants and support schemes, which it says it's got, but if you look at even Andrew's report, it says, well, actually the sector don't pick it up because it's bureaucratic, complex and difficult. But it stretches far beyond that. It's what you might call fully integrated government. There are about 5 departments that need to be involved in knowing what the tourism strategy is and delivering their part of it. And
so this isn't just DFE.
No. It's one of the big ones is planning. It's understanding what you've got to do in planning terms to land a major new facility. And so often we just end up bickering amongst ourselves in enormous, endless detail, and lose sight of what it is that we're really doing. Let's look at two aspects of this. When I came into politics, the first debate I recall getting involved in was saying how appalling the proposals were for Lord Street. And of course that was 15 or 16 or even longer than that, after we'd demolished what was there before, which was the bus station. And here we are now in 2020. Not only have we not got a development on Lord Street, but we can't even run it as a car park. I mean, you couldn't make that up, really. And then another example is the fact that there is the most beautiful site for a new hotel complex development with whatever add-ons it requires to make it viable, down at Castledown Golf Links, and yet there it sits, rotting away. There's something wrong, and we need to address it, and it is that a number of departments need to sit beneath a tourism strategy that they all sign up to. And of course, we still function far too much in silos. So the attitude at the moment is, oh, well, tourism's something to do with Department for Enterprise, and so it's Enterprise's job. Yes, it is, but it's also planning, it's also Treasury, it's also DOI. Have I said DEFRA? It's DEFRA as well. They all need to know what they've got to do because they've all got to work collaboratively to deliver success, which other jurisdictions and other resort destinations are achieving. We are falling behind. We're going to have to do something pretty significant to not only catch up, as Andrew has said, but jump ahead.
The obvious question, this comes at a cost, and should government be pumping money into this?
The question you have to ask is what's the danger of not acting alongside our competitors? If our hospitality sector completely fails, an awful lot goes with it. And I think for Department for Enterprise's side, and also the visitor agency, which is emerging from the department, they are trying to encourage people to understand what damage would occur there. Now, you talk about, is it worth it? The capital investment would reap rewards endlessly in the lifetime of that capital investment. And I'm happy to argue that till the cows come home with anybody who wants to discuss it with me.
What are the feelings of caution about then? Is it difficult to measure the impact of that capital investment? Maybe is that why there's a reluctance?
The problem is that when we try to understand what the hospitality sector is, we tend to look back at what it was instead of what it's going to be, and its future is going to be much more high quality, much more niche marketed in a whole range of ways, and that requires really professional commitment, both in government, again as Andrew says, and in the private sector. And we lack that. Even our current measures as to how successful or poorly we're doing are thoroughly inadequate. As an ex-hotelier, it's the methodology we use to measure what's happening is frankly abysmal.
Well, let's speak about that just very quickly, if we could, because you've got a vested interest in this topic for several reasons. That because of your involvement in this committee, from a constituency point of view, and from your professional background as well. This is
absolutely
a topic that's close to your heart in so many ways.
Well, isn't it right that I step up to the plate and as it were, do my duty to make sure I contribute from, as you say, an absolute huge lifetime wealth of experience. I don't want to sound too arrogant, but I do know what I'm talking about. And I look forward with the rest of the committee to engaging in the debate in November.
So tell us more about what comes next from this. You've mentioned the plan for a general debate. Why is it going to take that form?
Well, the policy review and scrutiny work is constantly evolving. Sort of 10 years ago almost now, the policy review committees came into being, and then I encouraged the Constitutional, Legal and Justice Committee to come into being. And then the way the policy review committees are evolving is that we're moving from just historical criticism of what's gone wrong into engaging in emerging policy and producing shorter reports which don't necessarily criticise, but bring another dimension to something, identify areas that may not have been considered. And it has the effect of modernising the way our parliamentary process works. Another new innovation very recently has been the introduction of a general debate, which doesn't require, in this case, a committee to bring forward a series of recommendations which then everybody nitpicks and argues over, but that creates a platform, an opportunity of serious debate on the floor of Tynwald that can to allow members to seriously engage in a subject so that everybody has the opportunity to understand the subject better. Now it is perfectly possible for that process then to encourage recommendations to emerge later in the light of understanding what is in the mind of Tynwald members. But at the moment, the problem is that if a committee produces a report with specific recommendations, then it sits dead and cold with the Council of Ministers for 2 months before it then comes back. And it may very well be that the Council of Ministers itself with all its myriad of different responsibilities in the departments, perhaps doesn't give the time required to address it itself. So this way, by using general debates, it's an opportunity for everybody to exercise themselves on that subject and then move to a process of decision later.
As a listener, though, the problem with a general debate, or maybe it's the blessing, I don't know, is that there's no real conclusion reached.
There is a conclusion reached. This is the point I'm trying to make. The conclusion is a better understanding of what is in the mind of the membership, rather than second-guessing or just coming forward from the position of the committee's view into decision-making process before having properly engaged membership. So no, I think it's a very, very healthy way forward. We had one on the post office, if you remember, in July.
And one on racism in July.
And racism, and they were, I hope you agree, that they were both excellent debates, and we all learnt something about each other's views, quite significantly in some regards.
So do you think that's a process that will happen more in the next administration, perhaps, or more moving forwards?
I do hope so, and one of the hopes and aspirations of the committee is that this process we're going through now with regard to hospitality sector and tourism will speak to the next house to some significant degree, not just about the subject itself, but how actually we're not handling it properly and what it is that we have to do to handle it properly.